And we are back, everybody, with episode 39 of the Jader and Kyle Show. Welcome back to you all. It's great to have you back again. My name is Kyle. You guys know who I am. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Jader. Jader, what's going on, man?
Long day, man. Long day, but super excited. I've been looking forward to this episode. We're jumping the gun already, but we're gonna talk one of my favorite films ever. So
Yeah.
very, very pumped about this. The week's been great. I think where are we? Wednesday?
Today's Wednesday.
So yeah, man, I'm off the next 2 days. I have school tomorrow, and then I have that fire station ride along. That
You're going in the fire truck, right? You're gonna be like Pete Davidson, right?
I'm gonna be like Pete Davidson in The King of Staten Island. I have whatchamacallit? I have a 13-hour shift.
Perfect.
My buddy already gave me a heads up. He's like, I hope you got thick skin, man, because they're gonna haze you a little bit. So I'm expecting some shit to go down. But I'm excited, man, because they're not doing ride-alongs for our school. Everything is virtual. But my bud is he's a lieutenant out there, and he asked his chief, and they're letting me come along. So I feel very privileged. So shout out to Mark for that.
I would say just bring an extra change of clothes. If you're going on a fire truck, get ready for that hose to hit you.
Oh, for sure. I already know. I'm expecting a water bucket, or they're like, hey, climb this ladder, and some shit's gonna. I'm already expecting some shit to go down.
Perfect. I mean, this is what you've been wanting, though. You've been wanting to be in a fire truck and be a fireman coming up. So this is the first big step, and I'm happy for you, man. You got a lot of big things coming up for you. Good news you needed, right?
39. Oh, that's my phone.
And then I'm going to be there this weekend.
We're gonna hang out.
We're say hi.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Can't wait.
So as far as today goes, we have a pretty fun episode here for you guys planned. We're joined by a very special guest this time, someone that Jader has had some interactions with before online, a guy who is very prominent in the movie space. Jader, you want to set this up?
Absolutely, man. We have the one, the only, the Snyder joining us tonight, Mr. Jeff Sneider. Welcome to the show, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Kyle, I'm excited to be here.
Thank Absolutely, you so much,
man. Jeff, man, I've been a fan of yours for quite a while, and it's so cool to have you on this show. I've been following since Schmodown days and all that started, but I'm really fascinated with your career, like what you do for a living, man. You're like the Adam Schefter of the entertainment business. I'm sure you've gotten that before, right?
I don't know that I'd go that far. Maybe back in the day when I was at the trades, but I appreciate it nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, so like Jader, do you have anything you want to start with when we get started with Jeff here? Do you want anything you want to ask?
Go Den. No, I'm just kidding. No, very little Schmodown talk today. Nothing, man. Just again, thank you so much. Again, just like Kyle. It's surreal to be in the circle with you because again, we're big fans. We here in Miami we're not breaking news like you are or anything like that, but we have our press junkets on our screen, our screeners, and we're one of the privileged ones here in Miami that we get to see our films early and all that. Mm-hmm. And just again, having you on the show is very special, especially talking the movie that we're going to talk, because I heard we both got a lot of love for it.
Oh yeah, sure.
But pretty much, if you don't mind me asking, how did you find the Schmodown world, or how did the Schmodown world find you? Just for our audience to know.
I'm an open book, so you don't have to ask, do you mind? You can ask me anything you want. I
appreciate that.
I guess I muscled my way into the Schmodown by defending my turf. Because Christian and his schmoes nobodies were dropping all these scoops that I'd been holding for a while, and I felt like these guys aren't like playing by the unspoken rules, so to speak. So there were some Twitter flame battles, some shots fired online, and eventually one of our mutual friends, a producer that we both know, basically said, you guys would actually really like each other. You should sit down and break bread, and that's what we did. We hashed it out, Christian and I, and I've just been, friends with him and that whole crew ever since. I feel blessed myself because they're a really good group, and they're tight knit, and they all hang out and everything. And even though I didn't go to college with them or work the comedy clubs with them, back in the day, they've taken me in, and I love those guys. I love what Christian and Mark have created in the Schmodown.
How long ago was that? When the Twitter things was happening? More or
Oh
less.
boy, probably like at this
Was
point,
this like AMC days
7 years
or
ago, roughly.
holy
Yeah,
shit? Okay,
probably.
holy shit! Wow, dude. That's
So I
crazy.
mean,
It's fun.
you bring up how they were, breaking scoops and putting stuff out there, not playing by the rules. I've heard some of your rants before about some of these people, these websites out there that just drop stories without doing any research. Can you kind of like break down what your job specifically is and why those websites anger you sometimes?
Well, I mean, listen, I come out of the trade, so everything had to be confirmed more or less when you're writing for Variety or The Wrap or wherever.
Yeah.
And that's how it is in most places. And I just feel like a lot of these blogs and stuff, they'll get their hands on certain information, which is like half the battle, if not more so, right? You got to get in the game, so to speak.
Mhm.
Then once you're in the game, there's a certain code. And I feel like you're seeing more and more unconfirmed reports and things like that leak these days because nobody bothers checking. And there were already things, it can happen in a span of a few hours. It's Mahershala Ali offered the lead in Last of Us. Oh my God. Can you imagine Mahershala Ali? What's he going to do with The Last of Us? And then 2 hours later, Pedro Pascal is actually the lead in The Last of Us. And, Mahershala Ali turned it down a month ago. Like, so, it takes a while for info to come out, but you can bet that if it's info about the lead in The Last of Us, like the trades they're going to bag that every time. It's not going to just be sitting out there for 6 weeks for some, no-name site to come along and do it. So it just depends. It just depends.
So you're telling me you're not a fan of WeGotThisCovered.com?
We got this covered. It might as well be called MakeBelieve.com. They just make things up. It's like
you want to know what's fucking crazy? The fact that how much shit of theirs gets shared. And
right. Nobody cares.
No one cares. And look, it's funny that we mentioned this, that you're mentioning about this, because just today, a friend of mine, it says Joker sequel reportedly introduced a real Joker, right? So he tags me in it because he knows I hate this fucking site. And he wrote laugh out loud. And then I wrote to him, fuck off. And I'm like, it gets shared so much. I'm like, dude, that is bullshit news. Like, you're spreading bullshit, and their clicks and their likes and everything. Obviously, like, I don't know. It's just it drives me insane.
It is. I'm used to writing for an industry audience of people who are in the know, so to speak. And since I came over to, I guess, Collider, you find yourself writing for more of a fanboy audience. And they are much less discerning, I've found. They will click on anything as long as it involves a movie that they're interested in.
Yeah.
Half the stuff that I read online doesn't even pass like a smell test for me.
Exactly.
And I think I have pretty good instincts about that kind of stuff. Every now and then, these sites get stuff right too. I think that on the flip side, you've got the wild and crazy blogs over here, but then you have the I'm only going to post stuff when the network or studio tells me to trades. So that is why some of these scoops are in the air and vulnerable, because the trades are just playing ball too much and just doing, they're basically just doing PR for the studios.
Yeah. Are there times where you're holding on to a story because the studio told you to hold on to it, and then they just give it to somebody else, or it's out there and you're like, I had that story this entire time, and they just decided to screw me over?
Well, here's the number one thing I'll say about that is you use the word told. A lot of reporters allow themselves to be told things. Okay. I am asked things. I don't work for Warner Brothers or Netflix or Apple. Okay, They have to ask me things, not tell me what to do. So, I just think, I definitely hold things. It's a relationship business, and if you're just going to be like, well, I'm going to come in and be the hired gun and pick off scoop 1 week, okay, that's great, and you're going to have a big week and you're going to get attention. But what happens next month when you're not sure about a scoop and you go to them and you say, hey, is this right? And then you can't get confirmation and nobody responds, or as soon as you send the email looking into it, that triggers, like, the whole town is booby-trapped, and that triggers someone calling someone at Deadline. Oh, the guy from Collider's on it. We don't want it breaking on Collider because it doesn't have the industry readership that Deadline does. Why don't you do it right now? But other places, because they know me, then it's okay that it's Collider breaking it. because they know I'm responsible with the information. I'm going to frame it a certain way, whatever it is. We're also at a disadvantage because we don't have email blasts. Email blasts, Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, Variety, they stick the story in your mailbox. Think about how many spam emails you guys get a day. Maybe you get 4 emails a day. Maybe only 20 of them are pertinent. So why isn't Collider one of those other 280 emails? That's something that we really need to get our shit together on.
You got to get that exposure out there, and so it feels like I know you said you used to work for the bigger publications, right? Like Variety and Deadline. Yeah. So how did you get into this game? How did this first start for you?
Internship. I mean, to me, honest to God, the best internship in the business, I think, other than maybe at like an agency, right, which is going to put you in the middle of the action, it's at the trades. Because if you're working at Warner Brothers, what are you concerned about, really? You're concerned about Warner Brothers projects. If you're working at Paramount, you're concerned about Paramount projects. But if I'm at the trades, you got to know everybody's projects. Everybody in an entire city, whether when they sneeze or fart, they want a press release about it. They want attention. Because if you're not getting noticed or you're not getting attention or written about, then do you even exist in LA? So I think that that internship at Variety, which is where it started for me, I just applied because I'd been writing for Ain't It Cool when I was in college, which at the time was a big deal. So
holy shit, you wrote for Ain't It Cool? I had no idea.
Yeah, I was one of the guys back in the day. But here's the thing, you asked me, maybe it is cool, like getting that Variety gig and making a name for myself as a scooper. But if I hadn't done that, I left Blumhouse to go to Variety. So if I could have just stuck it out at Blumhouse and answered phones as an assistant, maybe I'd be a big, rich producer today.
Producer right now, yeah, absolutely. So, you never know, man.
Exactly, you never know. Donald Glover, an hour ago, just signed an 8-figure overall deal with Amazon. 12 years ago, or whatever it was, 14 years ago, me and him were sitting in the same classroom, both broke-ass college students. So,
fuck.
You never know.
It's funny because I just got last year at my senior year of college, I got to talk to a producer over at Marvel right now. He's done like the Ant-Man movies and he's doing Loki right now. And when I asked him, like, how did he get started? And he was like doing some kind of internship at a talent agency. And then a bunch of he just fills out resumes all the time. And he saw one for Marvel Studios just being like this receptionist. He goes in there, he applies that day, gets the call back that same day. And then he just started working there with just this small little group. And now look where he is right now. Like, it's just right place at the right time.
Timing is everything in Hollywood and basically in life. But when was that?
This was before Iron Man. This is, I think, when they were.
But because back then Marvel was like, maybe this comic,
maybe this works.
Maybe it won't.
Yeah.
Right. And so, Marvel didn't have a mile-long list of names and resumes, right? And he got in early, just like I was at Blumhouse before Paranormal Activity. And if I had stayed, maybe I'm where your guy is now. But instead, I was like, Blumhouse, this company's not doing shit. It's about to get kicked off the Paramount lot. Forget it. I'll go to Variety. And look what happened.
Shit. What's one of the biggest stories that you broke that it was Jeff Sneider said this shit first and it just fucking blew up, like Twitter or wherever you broke this shit?
I mean, the biggest, probably Mahershala starring in True Detective. That was pretty big just because of how memed True Detective was. Everyone had their opinions on who should be the lead in True Detective, So, like, that's always a big deal. Honestly, the one that was a really big one was James Corden hosting his show and taking over for Craig Ferguson because when you have an availability in late-night television, every reporter is interested in that story. And not just, I'm more of a film reporter, but I'm talking about TV reporters. And that was a big one because James Corden was not someone who the American public was terribly familiar with and just didn't really have a profile. He came out of nowhere. He wasn't on all the lists of who should replace Ferguson. So,
wow.
Not you,
so James. Okay,
look at him now.
I remember when that whole sequence was happening, when like Jay Leno was stepping down, you saw Jimmy Fallon stepping in there. I think Colbert stepped into his position around that same time. Seth Meyers got his opening because Jimmy Fallon left. I remember when that whole late night circuit changed around the same time because I've been watching it.
Corden's the last one, right? Corden is the newest one, isn't he?
I believe he is. Yeah, him or Seth Meyers.
Definitely is.
But they were like right behind each other.
Maybe. Yeah, I'm not
yeah,
sure.
maybe Myers. Yeah.
And I know there's Samantha Bee and a zillion others, but I mean, like, of the main network.
Those 4 or 5, yeah. Like, I don't even
So the point is that situation, these late night show hosting gigs have only come up for grabs once a decade, maybe, you know? Like, that's what made it a bigger deal. It's not just some casting in a tentpole.
Well, you can name on your hand how many people have hosted the Tonight Show. It doesn't happen quite often. So, no, that is a big story right there. Is there something that you were chasing before that you were so close to getting, and then it just at the last second fell through?
Sure. There's a zillion of those. I mean, I had the Cumberbatch name for Doctor Strange beforehand, and I remember like getting it, and I'm like 10 minutes from the office, and it's like, you know, you all of a sudden you step on the gas, you're zooming,
going crazy.
You pull up right in front of the office, you block everyone's car in, and you're just hustling to get it out, and like by the time you get the computer open and like the headline saved, it's like, deadline just posted. So yeah, there's a lot of heartbreaks like that. You know, it's all about the circumstances in which it happens. You got to be prepared. And that's why I know Justin Kroll at Deadline does a lot of this, as do I, but pre-writing. You got to pre-write these stories, and maybe it's extra work for you because maybe these stories don't happen. You know, the deal never closes, and it's like, well, I just spent an hour and a half building that story. I'm never going to use it. But if that story breaks,
exactly. You right there.
Later, and then so you just got to always be prepared as a film reporter.
Jesus Christ, dude. So this is kind of jumping in. Kyle doesn't know the show you did when I asked you that you did the show with Mike, and they were talking about sports films. Just a quick little shout out that I was on the chat like going fucking crazy, right? I love that you mentioned Best of the Best. Love that you mentioned that film. Kyle, you know what Best of the Best is?
I haven't seen it before.
So it happens a lot where, you know, again, the age gap between Kyle and I, where and especially when I was with my other podcast, when I had a show called The Nobodies, and I was the oldest one in second. Me and the host, we were the same age, but the other two guys. So anything made before like 2000, they wouldn't know. So I would throw all these films. So when you mentioned A League of Their Own for baseball, which wasn't thrown around or anything like that. But yeah, just love that you mentioned Best of the Best. Sequel, not as good as the first one, obviously.
Yeah, I think I saw 2 or 3 of those movies.
Yeah, there's definitely 3 because I've seen 2. I've seen 1, 2, and I think I saw 3, and I was like, yeah, I'm done with these, man.
God, those were the days.
Yeah, man. But those movies were awesome, dude. So a little quick shout out on that, dude. This guy is Googling
Eric Roberts, and then what's
Eric Roberts? Chris Penn's in it.
Is it Philip Ree or something?
Yeah. Philip Ree, yeah.
James
I
Jones.
had a friend who like ended up working for him. You know,
Wayne Newton's in it, dude.
Huh?
Wayne Newton's in it. In the sequel, he's in the second one, man. But yeah, it's it's a martial arts film, dude. So
great ending.
Yeah.
Just funny because I did martial arts for like 10 years. I should have known about these. They just showed us Karate Kid over and over again.
No, that's the best, dude. Pop it, Tommy. Pop it.
Yes, dude. God. Fucking awesome,
So
dude.
let's go back to the Schmodown real quick because Jeff, you just won Player of the Year.
Fuck yeah.
And I think that's pretty incredible right there. It's for you to get that. Yeah, you. So your year ends with you winning the tag team championship. You got so close to the singles championship. How did it feel getting that honor, first of all? And now how are you feeling going into this new season?
I was definitely humbled. It's like I wrote on Twitter. Really, it meant more to me than I ever thought that it would. And I know, that Collins did have superior numbers, but I do think it is an entertainment show, and I think I was deserving. I think Collins will be around for a long time and have a lot of opportunities to win it. So I was, my heart swelled with pride that the fans and my colleagues voted for me, and Christian told me, the final vote percentages afterwards, and it wasn't terribly close. So that was also heartening.
I
actually have a little exclusive for you guys today.
How about that? What is it?
Exclusive little image. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
I got a piece of mail today.
Uh-oh, here comes the slice.
And the mail was very heavy.
Oh shit,
Not-
you got it.
Oh,
Look at that, dude.
Wow.
with a note from Brendan Mayer enclosed. So thank you to the kid who may have worse handwriting than even me.
Wow. Holy
It's
shit.
back home where it's supposed to be,
There
right?
it is, exactly. Reunited, and it feels so good.
Dude, let me tell you, one of the hardest things about actually being in the Schmodown is not even the competition for me. It's the kayfabe shit, because I'm, again, such a fan of everybody. So it's like when he got in the room, I'm like, holy shit, I'm in the same room as Jeff Sneider, man. This is fucking great, you know? And it happens all the time. Like even when I was when I went over to the Spectacular in December to California, and Christian's just introducing me to everybody, I felt like fucking kid in a let's say the Bulls locker room, a Bulls fan or a Miami Heat fan going into the Heat fan locker room. I was like looking everywhere, and I'm like, holy shit, that's and then I remember getting there, and I got there after the expo, and I remember PJ recognized who I was, and he goes, "Oh, you're the guy that won the event." I'm like, "Yeah, man." He goes, "All right." He's like, "The show's about to start. Just go upstairs." So as I sitting upstairs, like I'm like, oh man, I gotta sit all the way fucking far shit from everybody or whatever. And then I'm like going upstairs, and I see Smets, I see Miss Movies, I see Janine, I see Hannah. Like everyone was around, and I'm freaking out. And my girlfriend's just like right here. My girlfriend was like, go say hi. They're I'm like, no. They don't know who I is. It's fucking weird for me. Like I can't do this. And so there's times where I obviously have to stay in character or say shit or whatever. And I'm just like, like right now, like when you won, everybody was like, bro, he beat you. Like you were literally the first round. And I was like, man, but I'm such a fan of the Patriots, like not the sports, but
Jader, let me ask you though, do you think that could affect some of these rookies? Are the rookies going to come in this season and find themselves in matches and get a little starstruck, for lack of a better word?
It could happen. Absolutely. I feel like it could happen. With me, thankfully for me, my first match was Brittany Young, where I'm like, all right, I know her. I know
celebrity.
An actual celebrity sitting next to me, but it was kind of like we broke the ice right before the match, where she showed up literally 10 minutes before we recorded, right?
And you were in studio too, which is a big thing.
I was in studio. I was the last in studio match. Like that weekend was the last in studio match. So thankfully, I got that opportunity to actually record in the studio, right? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of like the rookies afterwards obviously got fucked from that, like from right. COVID and all that, right? Sure. So 10 minutes beforehand, before the match, she showed up. We spoke. Barbarian was there. It was the day I met Barbarian. He's like, you look a little nervous. Gave me a shot of whiskey, to like relax me a little bit right before the match. And Guy, because Sam couldn't make it, and I was drafted by Sam. Sam couldn't make it that day, and Guy's like, "Hey, I'm gonna be your manager that day." He's like, "Loosen up a little, man. You're a little uptight." I'm like, "Well, it's nerve-wracking, dude. Like, I'm here. I want to prove myself. I know I have the knowledge."
It's nerve-wracking for us too, Jader. Just so
you know. It's insane, right? But congrats again on that shit, man. Like everybody was like, you're not mad. I'm like, no, man. I lost to and eventually I did lose to the team champs, man. I'm like, fuck this. This is all again. Do I want to? Again, everybody was saying, the only thing I did feel like I got a little robbed from at least being mentioned for Rookie of the Year. Not that I was gonna win it. I knew Collins had that shit in the bag, but yeah. I feel like I put up. They had Kevin Smith up there.
I was going to say, you can say it. You did better than Kevin Smith.
And I'm like, fucking Kevin Smith, man. It was a popularity contest. What the fuck is this? But, I mean,
yes,
I fucking love the man. I dressed up as Silent Bob for Halloween in 2019. I love Kevin Smith, but I was like, I did a little better than him, man. Come on, what the fuck? But again, it's crazy how you said that. Throughout the whole year, everybody's like, oh, talks about, when I was on backstage and when I was on the rundown, they're like, hey, you're 2-0 right now. How do you feel? And I'm like, I really don't care for the Rookie of the Year award. Like I want to get to the next opponent and beat them and go next and go next. Like, that's where my head's at. But then not being mentioned, I was like, this sucks.
You can't control that. You got to focus on what you can control. So I don't know how the ballot gets made and, how much each vote is worth, because it's not just the fans or just the players. It's, they count percentage of the vote or whatever, it seems like. So, you know what? You got a long Schmodown career ahead of you. I think you'll be in contention for many more awards.
So, Snyder, I want to ask you this then, because you guys played against each other. Did you know about Jader going into it, and what did you think when you first saw this guy?
This guy sucks. He tried me on fucking air, bro. He's like, "Yo, go practice, dude. What are you doing?"
I don't think that you played your best game against us, Jader.
You're. What did I tell you, Kyle? I literally got off and I was like, I played like shit.
You were on tilt from that being served. You got
absolutely
served. You got served.
No,
again.
and again, a lot of people don't. I haven't said this publicly. Like I said, a lot of people don't know the bullshit that I went through.
A lot of people don't know what any of us are dealing with.
Exactly.
On a daily basis.
Exactly. I agree 100%. I feel like my greatest match was the one that I lost, which was the one with against Tom. Like, I felt like perfect round one, and I got opponent's choice. He gave me something that I wasn't good at the time, because now I'm fucking drilling those movies in my head. And then perfect round three, lights out. Round three, you know how they have the what they call the Bateman, where Bateman just, he sits there and he like uses the JTs. I was just like lights out round three, because I was so pissed. And I second guessed myself in a round two question that I knew 100%, but because I was freaking out of the category, I played it safe and went to a multiple choice. Had I not gone to multiple choice, I would have made him answer his 5. And maybe I would have had like a sudden death round, and this is rookie mistake that I did. But for me, that was too. Yeah. So coming in there, obviously, with like, I had my mindset on that match where I'm like, man, this is the Odd Couple. This is a hard fucking team. And I'm like, I could do it, man. We could beat the Odd Couple. And obviously shit went sideways for me. I missed dumb questions where, again, my girlfriend, I had not seen that match until maybe 2 weeks ago. It was the first time I saw it, until obviously we since we recorded it. And she was like, how did you miss these easy questions? I'm like, I have no clue. My mind was just not there.
I missed the Bumblebee question, or the ant question, whatever the hell it was, and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah,
the singles final against Oyama, that was bad.
So I have a question for you. Obviously, walk me through your moments, man, during your team match. Right at the end, where versus you and Shazam. Right before you guys win it, did you think they had it? Did you think they were playing around, or did you what were you going through?
What was their last question again?
You got me, man. I know it was hard. I'll tell you that.
I remember you guys looked kind of checked out after the 4th round.
You were like,
it was did they have the Full Metal Bitch one? Was that them, or was that Colin?
That's what it was. It was it was a Full Metal Bitch question. That's exactly what it was.
As soon as I heard that question, I was like, oh my God, like, that's really tough. Like, if they get that, then they deserve this. So we weren't down and out after. We were disappointed after round 4. Yeah. I know I was disappointed in myself personally, and been like, oh man, I wish Mark had my questions and I'd taken Mark's or whatever. But we also knew that if we got all 3 of our questions, and something happened with one of their 2 or 3 pointers, then they'd have to answer 5. And that's all we could really ask. But yeah, that Edge of Tomorrow question's a tough one, particularly.
It was hard.
If you were a fan of that movie, you would know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I wasn't a big fan of it.
No, I knew it. I knew it, honestly, because him and I reviewed it not too long ago.
Right.
It was one of the movies we discussed. So when they asked a question, and I was like, holy shit. And then I'm like, that's a tough question. If that movie was seen once or twice, like, I don't know how many times they've seen it.
It's on a bus. Yeah, like that's driving.
Yeah, it's like on a background, dude, So you're like, that's a tough question.
And American Hustle is a tough question, too. The microwave one.
The microwave question was tough.
It's a tough 2-pointer, but it's not impossible, because that was a thing, that movie blog, like it was on every single movie blog, the whole microwave thing, because it got called out by, you know, a scientist or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't know if I would have pulled it, but I also didn't have to because it wasn't my question.
Yep.
All right, Jeff. A couple more quick questions before we get into the movie here. Since you're in the game, you get to hear about what's going on in the industry. I just want to ask you a couple questions. What's going on with Channing Tatum? How come he doesn't exist anymore?
Great question. I think I've said that on my podcast too. I think that this new Sandra Bullock movie is going to be good for him. It's called The Lost City of D. But you're right that for a few years it was like, what is this guy doing? He's not getting hired at all. I think I don't know if he got thick. I mean, Channing Tatum, I think his best acting remains the first thing I ever saw him in.
What was that?
His very first movie, which is called A Guide to Recognizing Your Saints, with Shia LaBeouf and Robert Downey Jr.
Wow.
And he was just raw and electric in that movie. And I don't know, acting, I liked Magic Mike, and I liked the
Foxcatcher?
Yeah, you know what? He was great in Foxcatcher. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm saying not a bad actor, but I don't know, maybe it was the White House movie or something. He just got favor in Hollywood. Maybe he just wanted to take a break. Again, maybe he got fat. I don't know.
Because I was thinking the same thing about Joseph Gordon-Levitt until last year, where he was in 3 movies out of nowhere, but he disappeared for a couple of years too.
So with Joe, I think he was starting a family. I think he was focused on doing that. But the other thing is these guys, they're in their 30s. So it's almost like a tweener age, okay? Because you can't play the young guy anymore. And can you really see are Channing Tatum and Joseph Gordon-Levitt ready to play dads? I mean, maybe they could play the father of young children, but not a 10-year-old child, you know? And so they can't play dads. They can't. It's just a tough age. So maybe 5 years from now, there are more parts that come around for Joseph Gordon-Levitt or Channing Tatum. Both really good actors.
What was the last thing he was in? Lego Movie, I think, right? He wasn't even in. He was a voice actor in that. So yeah, because he did Smallfoot and he did. I know he did 2 animateds back to back. He did Smallfoot and he did Lego Movie. Oh, Kingsman. Probably Kingsman, right? Kingsman is probably the last thing we saw him in.
Yeah. You know what? I clearly have overlooked some Channing Tatum movies. I need to go back and study up on him, but. Yeah, just looking, I think he was trying to direct too. I think he would put a lot of energy into trying to direct, and it didn't really work out.
Okay. So, all right. So one last thing then. So it's going to lead right into our movie. Is this Crow reboot ever happening? Are we ever going to get the Crow off the ground?
I'd like to think it is.
And do you want it? And do you want it? That's a very important question too.
I mean, I want it because I've been writing about it for a decade now. I should really be pitching some kind of a Crow book. I want it because it's inevitable. It's going to happen. I think it's a good piece of IP that, I mean, it's just the Crow is almost like a subculture.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day in Boston on Newbury Street, which is the nicest street in the city, there used to be what I called the Crow store. And it was, I guess it wasn't a hot topic.
Was it a hot topic?
It wasn't hot topic. It was definitely a classier affair, but it was just drenched in Crow iconography. And yeah, I just don't know that any other comic book movie has that kind of thing to it, its own look and feel. And
I agree with you 100%. I actually interviewed the guy that was supposed to be in charge of the Crow reboot, Javier Gutierrez,
Javier Gutierrez.
Javier Gutierrez. I interviewed him when Rings came out.
Yep.
But it was actually my first press junket. And I obviously did my background on the guy to see what movies he's done, and so when I read that he was in charge of the Crow reboot, I can't find the fucking shirt, but I have a Crow shirt. I was supposed to wear it today for the show, so I wore it just so when I walked into the room, he looked at me and he's kind of yes, and I was all right, good. I broke the ice with this guy, right? Obviously we have to talk about Rings. My very last question was what's up with the Crow? What happened? And he told me the same thing. It's like, I had this badass idea for the film. Obviously he didn't disclose any like details, but he said that the studio tried to interfere way too much, as they do. And he goes, we weren't seeing eye to eye. And I'm like, were you going to do it with Momoa? And he goes, when I had written it, I had Bradley Cooper in my head. That's who Bradley Cooper was supposed to be attached to.
That is true.
Yeah. So he told me we had Bradley Cooper, and then he's like, we got greenlit. Everything was gonna happen, and then
because Cooper was first, and I don't think he was ever reported. I'm not sure if it was. I mean, there may have been some art that was leaked that featured his face. Then it was Luke Evans. Yeah. Then it was Momoa. Who is like all wrong for this.
Agreed. I was like, because we're going to talk about the premise of the film. So we'll just jump into that right now. The premise of the film basically is, a couple the night before Halloween get brutally murdered. If I see Momoa walking through that fucking door, I'm not going to fucking try to fight him. He's some big dude, But anyways, yeah, so I talked to him about that film, and he was like, he goes, it's a passion project for me. And he goes, and it sucks that I lost it. Because by then,
cursed. I mean, I think it was at Relativity for a while, and obviously Relativity had its financial problems, so it's kind of been jerked around the system as well. And now it's at like Trancas International, or I don't even know where the rights are. Ed Pressman, he's also an older producer, who's I just want to get this movie made. Like, I don't care who directs it, I don't care who's in it, just like make it already, right? Because he's probably invested millions of dollars at this point.
Of course, man. And last I heard, Momoa was still interested in doing it. He was campaigning for it, but he campaigns for a lot of things, But he was campaigning for the movie to get made. I like the guy, but I don't see him as an Eric Draven.
When I look at Jared Leto as the Joker, that's maybe he would have made a really good Eric Draven.
I think so too. I agree 100% with that.
The Joker in Justice League, the new photos.
The new photos that we got right now.
Zack Snyder, the Snyder cut.
The Snyder cut.
But at this point, it honestly may be best to take it in a completely different direction, make a female Crow or something like that. Just because I think these are very big shoes to fill, even though Brandon Lee obviously was killed on set and never went on to become the movie star that I think he would be. I think he'd be a $20 million movie guy right now.
I remember seeing him in Rapid Fire, and not knowing I was young when the movie came out, not knowing that it was Bruce Lee's son. I'm like, man, this guy kicks ass. He kicked ass in that movie. And then, we're jumping straight into The Crow now. I saw this movie opening weekend. I was 8 when this movie came out.
So what? Okay.
All right. So I was 8 years old, had no business watching this movie. But I've said this a million times over on the show. My mom never censored my films. So again, I saw Terminator. I was privileged to see Terminator 2 in theater. I saw The Crow in theater. My mom was a big action movie fan. This movie was not her, actually. It was my uncle, which was a big metalhead growing up, right? So he took me because I had the graphic novel of The Crow. I had a bunch of comics growing up. And he's like, hey, that movie's coming out, and I'm very curious to see it. So I was like, it is? And I had no idea. So I went to go see it, and that's why I hold it near and dear to my heart. Absolutely obsessed with this film. I remember that movie when it ends, it says for Brandon and Eliza, right?
Yeah.
Eliza, sorry. That theater was quiet. I had no idea that Brandon Lee had passed. Because they didn't tell me. My uncle didn't tell me until afterwards. He's like, hey, The Crow. And I was like, yeah. He's like, that's Bruce Lee's son. And I was like, yeah, I know. He's like, he died, right? And I was like, what? And he, tells me the story. Again, 8 years old, telling me this freaking story. But it's I never forget the first time I saw that movie because I was lost in transit. Like I was just so zoned into that movie. It's again, a violent film for an 8-year-old, right? But just the world that Alex Proyas created for me is just fantastic. And it's a very noir, black and white. Like 75% of the movies is, there's barely any color in this movie. And it's rain, yeah. How about you? When was the first time you saw this movie? What does it mean to you?
Boy,
before we start doing our good touch.
I imagine it was a simple blockbuster rental.
Yeah.
I definitely did not see it in theaters, but I just immediately connected to it. I mean, I had my first kiss at 13 years old wearing Crow sort of makeup on my face or whatever. I don't think it was makeup. I think it was like a purple magic marker and made my face up like it. But so, yeah, it was certainly by the time 11, 12, 13, I was just in love with this movie. I think that, I think it's a beautiful film. And I think it is the best comic book movie ever made, in my estimation, up there with The Dark Knight and Logan.
Hey, you just mentioned my two favorite comic book films, included with The Crow. So me and you,
when
these
people
comic book films
tell me like The Avengers is their greatest, is the best comic book movie, I'm just like, I don't even know what to make of you right now. But all right. Obviously, Brandon's death sort of taints it, and that doesn't taint it; it almost enhances it.
Enhances it. I agree.
But that's fucked up to say, right? That
I know.
Well, same thing with or with Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight. I mean, I feel like if he hadn't passed away, I don't know how significant that performance would be looked at. It's a great performance, one of the best ever.
I was like, I don't know, man. It was pretty fantastic, dude.
It is, but I don't think we're still talking about it this many years later had he not passed away after the movie was done.
Well,
right?
I wonder if The Crow is the same thing, though. Like is it an asterisk almost, like a red flag, or is it fate almost in a twisted sense?
Yeah.
But there's something that I love about this movie. It's a romantic film, even though you barely even get to hang out with Shelley Webster at all. I think that the flashbacks do a great job of setting up their relationship. I think it's better that you could give Jane Foster and Thor or whatever 30 minutes of screen time, or whoever the hell Captain America sleeps with, It's like none of that can touch Eric and Shelley, and just through the little flashbacks, the way that they touch each other, the way that they kiss, the way little things used to mean so much to Shelley, the way that he lies down and holds her grave, at the end. There's just something. I'm a romantic at heart, and that's why I really love this movie.
All right, so Kyle, talk to me about the first time you saw The Crow.
It was 2 nights ago. It's funny because you brought it up earlier, Jader, about how we have this age difference, so there's the gap there. It's funny because I was born in '97, so I grew up through the 2000s, and
right.
These are because I've gone back to watch movies, like all the older films, but I go back to the 70s. And
it's 80s. Funny. I know Jeff thought I was a lot younger than I am. Because someone mentioned that I had
a baby face.
Yeah.
I would have been Jader at 27, 28 tops.
No, man. I'm turning 35, dude.
No, but it's funny because Jader on the show, I know all the 70s and I know the 80s. That's the decades I went back to watch again.
Oh, for sure.
I decided to get into older film. And on this show, you've seen the 90s is just a decade that completely passed me. I have not gotten to the. Yeah, I don't know why. I just don't really care to go back and watch those films.
I made him watch The Rock. We reviewed The Rock, and he was he hated it. He hated it.
I didn't like it. No. I wasn't a big fan of Point Break. I remember that was one of their first episodes, and I was
Speed?
I did like Speed. I like Speed.
Speed's awesome.
Yeah.
Speed's awesome.
I do like So I'm kind of I kind of went back and just skipped the 90s completely. So The Crow, I never really got a chance to see, and there is no reason for me to go back to watch it until now because people don't. It's not something that's into pop culture per se, but it does have this cult following, and that cult is pretty loud. And Jader is one of them. When we did our comic book movie draft, that was one of the films you chose. I feel like your list would have been Jeff's list had he.
Absolutely would have been. Absolutely.
Did you end up getting Kick-Ass in your draft? Because Kick-Ass is up there for me as well.
Who drafted Kick-Ass? Did I? No. Did I?
I can go check real quick if you want me to check.
Yeah. I think I had The Dark Knight on there. I know I have The Crow on there. I know I had. I couldn't get Logan because someone took fucking Logan for me. We did this with Chance, with Robert Parker, Barbarian. We always do this. So if you're willing to come on, we'll get more guests and we'll do like a decade. Like we'll say, hey, best '90s action films or best '90s films of all time.
Say no more.
There it is.
You did have Kick-Ass. You had Captain
I did have Kick-Ass.
Did he have Logan too, or no?
No, he didn't have Logan. Chance at Logan.
Needless to say, I won the fucking draft.
Those three and The Crow and Batman Returns are like, those are my five, I think.
Yeah, I love Batman. Craig got Batman Returns, actually.
You got Batman 1989. You got X2 on there.
X2 really good.
Yeah.
So,
I won. I always.
There's a lot of good ones. I mean, I'm not an anti-comic book guy, which is why I'm upset that I have that reputation. I just have taste.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you.
You want to hear my list, Jeff?
Yeah. I got on there because Watchmen's good too.
I didn't have Watchmen. No, I had Thor Ragnarok. I had Spider-Man to the Spider-Verse, Wonder Woman, Deadpool, Joker, V for Vendetta, and then Guardians 2.
Oof.
So Guardians 2.
Joker is my favorite on that list, I would say.
Joker. I feel like I had a good variety. I had probably the best DC film. I had, Deadpool on there. So I feel like I had a good variety.
Not a Deadpool guy. Guardians 2 was like awful.
I think it's the. I always tell them I hate that fuking movie.
We're talking about to watch it today. But anyways, no. I saw
shit on Guardians another day.
Yeah, I saw The Crow for the first time 2 nights ago, and honestly, it does have that 90s feel to it. Absolutely. It is of its time. Looking back, it feels like absolutely what people were, going through in the 90s. It was that gothic era where you're listen to grunge and hard rock music. It fits well right in with that. And I thought it was a good movie. I had a great time with it. I don't think it's the greatest thing ever, but I think it's also something that we look back on with a lot of significance because it's going to be something that lasts for a while. This movie not getting made again, even though they've been pushing it for so long, I think that really speaks to something that it's not just that it's cursed. I feel like it's because it's very special. And for someone to really crack that again is going to be tough. So I really enjoyed the love story aspect, like you said, Jeff, but also revenge films. It's very much a revenge tale where we're seeing, he got murdered and he lost his wife. Of course, he's going to be pissed off and go back and, want to get his revenge. And I think it works really well because you're rooting for this character the entire time to finish his mission. And that's something that I think I think that revenge films are really easy to get the audience hooked onto. If you fail with a revenge film, you're doing something really wrong. Like maybe you shouldn't be making movies because if you just have to get the audience to root for you, and you're right there for it. So I enjoyed The Crow. I'm on board with it, and if they ever want to remake it again, I'll be there to see it.
I'm shocked.
Oh yeah,
I didn't think you were gonna like it at all, dude.
When the flashing lights started towards the beginning, I was like, please don't let it be like this the entire time because I had just because it was almost like Strobe at the beginning. It just kept going back and forth.
The like when you're getting to the murder scene in the very beginning?
Yes, it was happening quite often, and I just watched Titanic the other night again, and when it's all flashing when they're down in the bottom and the water's rising up, it was just flashing constantly. It was like, here we go again. Gonna get strobe effects, all this stuff. So I had a good time with it, though. I thought it was a really good film, and I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm also curious, like which shots are feature the CGI Brandon Lee and things like that, because that may be part of the flashing, the editing technique may be covering some of that stuff up. I know that he was shot when they hold him out, right?
Yeah.
So
No, isn't it the Fun Boy scene? That's what I heard.
It was more towards the beginning where you're getting an idea of what happens the year before, where you saw him.
I mean, were you talking about when he got shot in the film, or what scene it was? Because it was Fun Boy, Michael
Massey, yeah.
Massey.
Yeah.
What? If I'm not mistaken, he's the one that shot him.
Yeah.
Obviously, not
I think
knowing.
that was while filming the flashback stuff, not while filming the stuff in his apartment.
Yeah, it was the flashback stuff. Yeah, that's when it kept flashing for me, and I was like,
hold him out, right? And there's
the
flashing and stuff, and then he's the last cut, his gun. So I think that I don't know. I'm saying it's possible that some of the flashback stuff may have seemed choppy like that because it had to cover for Brandon Lee's death.
Yeah, and you don't think about that while you're watching. You're just like, wow, this is an interesting choice. It felt 90s to me at that point, but then you hear about that stuff and it makes sense. I feel like we really do need to address the whole Brandon Lee of it. Do you guys feel like this guy could have been one of the best actors out there had his career not been cut short from this film?
Yes,
absolutely.
I don't know if he would have been an Oscar-winning actor, but I think he would have been a 20.
He would have been at least, he would have been an action star, to say the least. We would have been probably seeing him in some of the famous action movies that we got in the 90s.
He was very good looking, very charming. Obviously had the physical chops. So I think he could have been a real leading man.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then obviously the tragic death that happens on there. And do you guys want to, or Jader, you want to touch on this now as how everything went down on set? Because you can't tell the story of The Crow without telling this moment.
Well, probably Jeff is better at that since I thought it was in a different fucking scene completely.
I understand it. The production, as it was getting towards the end, they let go of their like armory master or something.
Yep.
And so he's in charge of like the guns, the prop guns, the blanks and everything. So the gun itself, I believe, was loaded with blanks. The problem is that one of the blanks was not entirely empty. And it still had.
Yeah, because what they would do is they would take out the lead. They would take out the lead and then they would put it. But apparently one of them wasn't completely empty. And I think it was more than, I don't know if it was one or two, but apparently Michael Massey in character as Fun Boy unloaded the clip on him, not knowing, obviously. But I think it was more than one bullet. Oh, was it just the one?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
It was my understanding that it was just one.
But I know Michael Massey because Michael Massey passed away too in 2016, and that death fucked him up completely. Like, and it's obviously it's not something that just brush your shoulders off and be like, oh, whatever. It was an act. It really like ate him alive.
He was definitely haunted by it, and I think that you can see that in his performance the following year in Seven. Where he's the operator of the Lust murder of that motel or whatever. You just look in his eyes, and he just looks like a guy who hasn't slept in a year and a half.
He said that he took a year off apparently or something like that, if I'm not mistaken, and said he went back to New York and just completely shut down. Didn't want to work, didn't want to do anything until he was obviously ready to go back.
Right.
And
they shot this scene, and it sounds like everything went well at first, and they called cut, and everybody started celebrating the take, and Brandon didn't get up. And they went and checked on him, and he had basically a hole the size of, I believe it was a quarter, a hole the size of a quarter in his abdomen, and they just couldn't save him.
Rushed him to the hospital. He ended up dying at the hospital, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Which he was going to get married, which is the craziest part. He was going to get married, I think, 2 weeks after his death. And apparently it's terrible. It's kind of like if you're looking at the film and you're watching what happens to Eric Draven and what happened to Brandon Lee, it's terrible. Yeah. And you also get the apparently he was like treated I want to say poorly, but he was getting like sick on set. Like it wouldn't stop raining where they were shooting. His agent was pissed off with production. There's this documentary on Shudder called Cursed Films.
Yeah, I did watch that.
If you guys haven't seen it, for our audience out there, please check that out because obviously The Exorcist. The Omen one is the one that freaked me out the most, man. That was some crazy shit that went down on that set. And I think Poltergeist, obviously, and The Crow was one of them. And apparently, the agent was super pissed with the way Brandon was getting treated, and that's where I heard that they were emptying out the blanks, but one of them wasn't empty, and that's how everything went down, which is completely sad because again, he had his whole future ahead of him, and he was great.
They did an investigation, and I think everybody sort of talked about whether they wanted to continue and what should be done with this film. Yeah. And ultimately they said, listen, Brandon is amazing, and he would have wanted us to finish and to release this final performance of his. So that's why they soldiered on.
All right, guys, let's jump into the categories here. So as always, our first category here is best scene. And Jeff, you are our guest, so I want to give it to you first. What is your pick for the best scene in this film?
Oh, there really are so many. I don't know that I'd call it a scene so much as a sequence, but I think as soon as
Taking mine.
yeah, it's
He's
basically
taking mine.
when Skank and T-Bird, go to the convenience store for road beers and whatnot, and then Brandon Lee's in the back seat of the car. Everything up to when T-Bird dies in the exploding car, that I think is my favorite chunk of the movie.
With the fire and the crow. No, it wasn't actually. I thought he was going somewhere else because mine is kind of like a sequence too. But yeah, man, smokes and roll beers, man. Make it quick. Goes inside the cop scene with the the cop report.
I love the way that cop just like the chase is staged, and then I really love the dialogue exchange on the pier there with Eric Draven and T-Bird.
We'll get there because it's the quote section is actually from that scene, so it's funny. So we will be talking about that. I'm going to take actually, and it's the beginning where he first resurrects or comes back, whatever, what have you, and he's walking, and you're getting the flashbacks of what happens to Shelly, right? And he's hurting, right? He's hurting so bad. And then obviously with him getting pissed, he punches the glass. He sees the mask, paints himself. That whole sequence of him preparing for this story that we're about to embark, the revenge. And they cue the song "Burn" by The Cure, which I'm not a Cure fan, but I love the soundtrack.
Yeah,
but I love that song. It's so perfectly played. That for me is every time I see this movie, it's like I get so excited for the scene. And again, it's just you get the heartbreak and you feel what Eric is going through. And I'm like, I do the exact same thing this guy's about to do. No questions asked, So that for me is my favorite scene. It's always been my favorite scene in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kyle, what was
I went with honestly, I like when Albrecht and Draven, when they have their interaction in Albrecht's apartment. And it's because I really like in films where you see all the action happen and then the film just takes a moment to pause and to sit down and everything stops and you're just the characters are getting to know each other more. And it's where Albrecht learns exactly what's going on. Oh, you're the guy who died a year ago. That's why you're asking about Shelly. And he gets that understanding because Albrecht becomes a major character towards the end of the film. He's there for him when he needs him most. And you just kind of see the humanity in Draven. Because to this point, yeah, you saw him get murdered, but you don't really know who he is too much to this point. And you can see he's kind of a man who's hurting after everything he's been through. He's back alive now out of nowhere. And now he's on this revenge tour, but he's not this evil person. He's somebody who is just out to avenge the one he loves. And I really like how Ernie Hudson and Brandon Lee interact with each other in this scene. So that's my favorite scene in this film because
it humanizes him for sure with the whole, I was going to use your front door.
Yes.
I thought I'd go out the front door.
I feel like those scenes in any film where everything slows down in the middle can either be the best scene in a film or the worst scene. Sometimes it's completely out of place, but I feel like this movie needed it here. Otherwise, it's just a big rush the entire time, and it really gives you a moment to catch your breath. So that's why I went with that scene.
Good choice.
I move on to best line. Jader, you sound like you had a lot of options in mind. So what is yours?
It's a longer quote, but it's where the same thing that Jeff was saying right before he kills T-Bird, and T-Bird realizes who he is, and he gives that whole monologue, like, I know you can't be you. There is no coming back.
Through the window.
Yeah, dude. That whole quote right there, right before, and he goes, there ain't no coming back, and right, like that, you can tell obviously that T-Bird knows he's fucked. And just him being like, how the hell is this happening? That quote for me, just that little part right there at the end, right before, T-Bird.
There ain't no coming back is a great.
There ain't no coming back, man.
That's a great line. I went with, it's from Draven. He says, little things used to mean so much to Shelly. I thought they were kind of trivial. Believe me, nothing is trivial. And it's kind of the theme of the film to me is it doesn't matter what it is, everything matters. No matter what you do in life, you have to hold on to every precious moment. And that's Draven saying, I thought I had my whole life ahead of me and it was taken from me. And Shelley always, looked out for the little things and held on to them. And now I understand where she's coming from. Every moment matters. And I feel like that's another thing that brings humanity to this character, is that line. The things are nothing is trivial in life. So to me, that was my favorite line in this. Jeff, what is your pick?
It was a tough call. I mean, I like Jader's choice the more I think about it. I love the way that Brandon Lee delivers the "victims aren't we all" line.
Right before 10-10.
Right, but I ended up going with, because this is, I do think of the Crow as a superhero rather than a super vigilante. And if you're a hero, you got to save somebody. So the person that he saves really is Darla. And I love the line, "Mother is the name for God on the lips and hearts of all children." There's just
taking the fucking drugs out of her.
Right, as the morphine or whatever's coming out of her. And there was just something, it was a different way of using his powers. And I don't know, there was just something about that line that I thought was kind of poetic, even though it's very writerly.
All right.
Yep.
A couple casting what ifs. Jeff, I want to see if you even know about any of these, since you're well into.
You guys are really original with these categories too.
Trust me. Casting what ifs though. Jeff, do you know any off the top of your head that were supposed to happen?
Oh boy. Do I? I don't think I do.
Okay. So for Draven, River Phoenix and Christian Slater both turned down the role. Either one of them could have had that role, but they both turned it down. James O'Barr, the writer, wanted Johnny Depp as Draven. So,
shit!
He looks like Johnny Depp. He looks like he's modeled after Johnny Depp, practically.
Yeah. Cameron Diaz turned down Shelley because she didn't like the script.
There's no role there.
I think that's an interesting choice right there.
There's coming up The Mask. No way. The Mask came out later that year, actually. Yeah, because it was 94. It was the same year as The Crow, but Crow came out in May. I remember it was summer when I saw it because I wasn't. It was around my uncle's birthday. Yeah.
And then this was the weirdest thing I read. The executives of the film wanted this to be a musical starring Michael Jackson originally, until Brandon Lee and Alex Perez came on board. And that's according to James O'Barr, and that's on like a DVD commentary. So, yes, they wanted this to be a musical starring Michael Jackson.
Michael Berryman, though, he was originally cast right as the Skull Cowboy, and that right is that right? And then the character just got cut from the movie.
I don't have that in there.
You don't have anything on the Skull Cowboy?
No, I don't have anything on the Skull Cowboy.
Right, there was this whole other character called the Skull Cowboy. Got erased from the film, who I believe was played by Michael Berryman.
Holy shit.
All right, we move on to the Mahershala Ali Award for Best Sharpshooter. The character does the most in the least amount of time. Jader, I'm going to throw it to you for this. Who's your pick?
For me, it was but he's actually one of the main characters, man. I actually had I liked Tintin's character. Tintin was the he's the first one out, but I just every single one of these characters are so despicable, and I feel like when a villain just plays that one to someone that you just absolutely hate, I'm like, hey, they're doing their fucking job, So Tintin for me was one of them. I've always liked Tintin. I thought he was a dope. I mean, for what it was, growing up, obviously, I thought he was the cooler one out of all of them. Took no shit, and I liked the whole knife throwing. I thought he was one of the original, like, out of all the villains, because they all pretty much use guns and all that. I like the fact that he used knives. So I give this one to Tintin, sharpshooter for me.
Jeff, you got a pick for this?
Yeah, so I was initially torn between Fun Boy and T-Bird, but the answer is actually Gideon. It's
Gideon.
John Polito. He just comes in and like throws fire for like 15 minutes. I mean, he's the only one really who's like, standing up to the girl, like talking shit to him. And I love everything about that scene inside his pawn shop, everything with the engagement ring.
The engagement ring coming out.
It's great.
I always love that. It's so great, man.
And then just the way John Polito talks to Top Dollar, then before he's ultimately killed. Like you
must be his sister.
Yeah, he's great. He wins.
I have John Polito for something else coming up. But for my pick for this, I had Tintin also. He kind of sets the tone for the beginning, and he is this despicable, terrible person, but he's throwing knives. He's super confident in himself, and he gets humbled right away. But I feel like he's not completely over the top. He's just right on the border, where some other characters as we go down the line are very over the top. So I kind of like how Tintin sets the tone for the rest of it, and the guys don't really, and everyone kind of follows along afterwards. So I went with him.
You know what I found out about that guy recently? That he is the guy in Chasing Amy.
Really?
The militant black guy.
Lawrence Mason.
Oh shit!
I think that's him.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Huh. I saw him. He was in Daredevil in an episode.
Oh, okay.
Because he's bald now. Yeah, he's in I think season 1, if I'm not mistaken. But I was like, hey, it's Tintin.
I think the three of them, though, T-Bird, Funboy, Tintin, they're all perfect. I mean, Skank is great too, but Skank is kind of like a lesser role.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
The Bill Murray Award for Best Cameo. I don't know if there's really a pick for this. The character that's just in for a second. I don't know if you guys had any choices for this. So, Jeff, I'll throw it to you. Did you have a pick for Best Cameo?
I think it's the Candyman. I think it's Tony Todd.
Tony Todd, man.
Yeah. He's just like hanging out there in the background, playing it cool, looking hip. He looks like the main character.
He figures out Eric's weakness. The sister does. What's her face?
Bai Ling.
Mika. Micah. But yeah. And that's actually not a bad one. Yeah, I didn't have anything for Cameo, to be honest with you. I was going to say the Crow, but that's the main character too.
I mean, Anna Thompson's great as Darla too. Anna Thompson's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I said Stone Temple Pilots
back to back. She did. She did Bad Boys.
Think of anyone?
You're getting
I know Stone Temple
cut
Pilots.
off, dude.
You guys
hear me?
You guys just talked to each other for like 30 seconds.
Sorry about that. Yeah, no, I didn't get that at all, dude.
Oh, okay. I went with Stone Temple Pilots. That was my pick because they just show up first. I'm like, I know that song.
You know what? That's thinking outside the box, Kyle.
Yeah,
there
exactly.
You go, man.
Thank you, Jeff.
That's a great fucking song too. It
is a good song. I caught it right away. I was like, oh, they do the whole soundtrack, and then no. Next is the Gary Oldman Everyone Award for Best Overacting. This is where I go to John Polito. I think he is way over the top in this, man. And then it's just, I feel he's one of those frustrating characters. I'm like, just shut your mouth, man, and maybe you'll survive. You'll get through this. Stop calling people names and throwing out insults when your neck's tied up and when you got your hands trapped down by a knife. Like, just listen to what they're saying and you'll get out of this. And he's just...
Oh, he got a sword through the throat, so...
yeah.
Shut him up quick.
Oh, yes, it did. So, to me, he was just way too much, and that's my pick for the Gary Oldman Award. Jader, you got a pick for this one?
Skank. This is Skank's award, hands down.
Yeah.
Skank, for me, was the overactor in this, man. Again, yeah, man. I don't know. Yeah, like him freaking out at the end when, they go to the top of the club and they start playing that it's not a Pantera song. I forgot what song it's playing. That song that they're playing in the club, whatever. But yeah, Skank for me was always the overactor in this. He was the one, and you kind of just said it, Jeff, where everybody was kind of like, T-Birds, Tintin, Fun Boy, even Top Dollar. They were just on I feel like it was a different film that Skank was on, so that's my award.
Jeff, who you got?
I might have said Skank as well, but since Jader did it, I'm going to take Ernie Hudson's boss. Like that other character. Huh?
Torres?
Yeah,
Torres, man.
Kind of an asshole.
Yes.
Who was kind of overacting the entire time. So, yeah, I'm going to give it to him.
I can see it. That guy looks familiar. He looks like the new, he was in that show Inhumans, and then he's in the Star Trek. He looks like Anson Mount, I think is the actor's name.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
So whenever I saw him, I'm like, is that him?
I remember him from Cobra. He was in Cobra with Stallone. He's like a little small part. like very small part, but he's in it.
I got a couple interesting details. There's so many interesting details about this film. Like you said before, Jader, Michael Massey took a year off from acting after Brandon Lee was killed. I have Brandon Lee applied this face paint the night before every single day of shooting. He'd always apply it the night before and then sleep in it so that looks more worn out when he gets to the set the next day. And I think they say it took like 35 minutes to an hour every single day to put that on there. So it shows some of the commitment he had to sleep with that face paint on. Here's something interesting: the scene in the pawn shop where he's smashing the glass. Brandon Lee, it's supposed to be breakaway glass, but he cut himself smashing it anyways. And John Polito told him, like, you're gonna kill yourself on this set if you keep doing stuff like that. And then obviously ends up dying. Something crazy
Wow.
And then to hear some of the stuff that happened around how cursed this set was. It says, during the first day of shooting in Wilmington, North Carolina, a carpenter suffered severe burns after a crane hit live power lines. And then on subsequent days, a grip truck caught on fire, a disgruntled sculptor crashed his car through the studio's plaster shop, and a crew member accidentally drove a screwdriver through his hand.
Jesus.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of those things are corners that were cut with safety. And that comes back to the producers and the people paying the bills, who were the Weinsteins.
Yes.
Oh.
There's a fun fact right there. And then finally, I have one more. According to Empire Magazine, cocaine abuse was rampant on set, with cameramen shooting whilst high, crew going into the toilet to snort between shots, and people cutting around. One crew member recalls hearing the sound of a sneeze on the set one day, and an annoyed Brandon Lee quipping, "Someone just lost $50."
A lot of night on this movie too. So guys staying up late.
Yeah, man.
90s.
But it helps.
All right, we have two more categories here. Apex Mountain's one of them. I feel like we're gonna just give this to quite a few people.
Is this unanimous?
I feel like a lot of actors qualify. Jader, you just want to say it?
For what? Apex?
Apex? Yeah.
Well, obviously for me, it's Brandon Lee. If I have to give it to one person, it's going to be for Brandon Lee.
I think it's almost everybody but Tony Todd and Ernie Hudson.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I feel like
everybody's right. Apex Mountain. Alex Proyas, Brandon Lee, the entire crew, right?
I think
yeah.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is really fair, actually.
So, I mean, it never got really better for anyone after this, except for Ernie Hudson. Obviously, he got better for him before this, and then Tony Todd is not what you think about when you think of Tony Todd. So
David Patrick Kelly had, I mean, not starring roles or anything like that, but his career kept going overall. I know
he's been around a long time, obviously.
Yeah. So he's been around, and he was. I don't know. Have you seen The Longest Yard, Kyle?
Yeah.
Remember Unger, the one that kind of the snitch that kind of gets Unger? That's T-Bird.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he did the Twin Peaks show. He was Charlie in John Wick, dude. He had a very small character, but he was in John Wick. Yeah, T-Bird was in John Wick.
He fits in a John Wick movie.
Well, I believe that Chad Stahelski worked on The Crow.
That's what I was gonna. Yes, I'm surprised that's not one of your fun facts, to be completely honest with you.
No, I just never picked up.
He's the stunt double. He's the one that finished the film, if I'm not mistaken. He did Brandon Lee's part, and then he goes and directs John Wick. But he was who finished Brandon Lee's role.
Yeah.
No way. Okay.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Okay. Last category here. Who won the movie? Jeff, this is the movie for you. Who won this film? I feel like this is pretty unanimous here.
Yeah, I mean,
there you go.
Brandon Lee, obviously his Apex Mountain, and he won the movie. Like, he's terrific in it. It's a star-making performance, and it's tragic that his life was cut short on this movie. I think Alex Proyas made a name for himself as well with this film. which allowed him to go on to do Dark City. And
Dark City.
I can't speak for what happened, after that. I don't think Price has had the greatest career since then, and I'd love to see him sort of some kind of return to form, particularly on television. I don't know why he's not developing some kind of Amazon or Netflix series, but the two of them, their powers combined between Brandon's performance and his charisma in front of the camera and Alex's vision for this world, it's something pretty special.
Jader, it's pretty easy right here, right? Brandon Lee?
It's unanimous, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think you cannot give him this. He obviously is the one you think of when you walk out of this. Whenever you think of superhero, comic book, graphic novel films, you're always focused on the lead, who's playing the hero. And Brandon Lee is, one of those, castings that's going to be held up there for such a long time. When people look back at some of the best castings for these films, he's one of them that is brought up every single time. And it's just unfortunate that his career didn't get to continue on, and we could see what he would have done next after this. So I think it's easily him. And is there any last final thoughts you guys have on The Crow?
Watch it if you haven't seen it.
For sure. I think it totally holds up. Yeah, it is a movie of its time, but I still think it's better than 90% of the comic book movies, or 100% of the comic movies that come out these days. The costuming is iconic. I think the soundtrack was excellent. The cinematography, everything this is really close to a perfect movie. Maybe there's a couple elements that aren't great. I don't necessarily love the end of the movie, like the fight on the rooftop.
It was like this. It was way too fast.
Yeah.
But I do want to give shout out to Michael Wincott, that he's probably watching the show. But I thought he was so great, and I thought he was a great villain. And it's crazy because you kind of think that T-Bird is, when you watch the film, the main villain, and it ends up being somebody else. It ends up being the reason why they ended up going to the apartment and doing the show was because of Top Dollar. But
this movie's so influential too. You think Neo would be wearing a trench coat in The Matrix if not for The Crow?
I don't know. I don't think so. You're absolutely right. No. I'm telling you, everything about him and the guy, and to this day, you'll see guys out there wearing. If I had fucking long hair, I wish I'd fucking dress up as the Crow for Halloween, dude.
I tried to interview Michael Wincott. I put in a really thoughtful interview request to him within the past year for Collider, and his rep, wrote back. He's repped out of France or something. And she just said he doesn't do interviews, period. Try to find me an interview online with Michael Wincott. I bet you won't be able to do it. Because I just who is beating down this guy's door to talk to him? I really thought that they would go for it.
But exactly. Who is actually trying to talk to him? What was the last thing you saw Michael Wincott in? Can't even fucking tell you at the top of my head.
He was in The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, I believe. But which is a terrific movie as well. I'm just saying, if you're an actor and someone wants to write about you, a decent outlet that wants to write about you, I was just very surprised. But maybe he was anticipating the Crow questions and he just doesn't want to answer them.
He doesn't want to answer them. Yeah, no, of course. That makes a lot of sense.
Time for everybody.
Well, that's going to do it for our discussion on The Crow, and that's going to do it for another episode of the Jader and Kyle Show. Mr. Jeff Sneider, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. Jader, it was fun talking shop with you. Kyle, great questions and everything. Anytime, and keep me posted for one of your drafts. I'm down to do it.
Oh, he wants to do a draft, so we gotta find out what if we're gonna do decades. I don't think. Do you want to do worst comic book films or something worse, or you want to do best?
I want to do best. I mean, even if it's taking an actor who has a lot of credits, like a De Niro or a Nicholson.
Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, right. Sam Jackson.
This guy loves Samuel L. Jackson. He's only going to pitch that Samuel L. Jackson towards you, man.
He's got every movie.
I actually do like that De Niro one, actually. That'll be very, very interesting.
Whatever you want.
Fuck yeah, dude. All right, well.
But no, Jeff, thank you for coming on the show, man. Plug your stuff. I know you write for Collider. You got your podcast out there, so please tell everyone.
At The Insider on Twitter, Instagram, and Cameo. You can find my stuff on Collider, the Snyder Cut podcast on Thursdays. But really, just keep an eye on the insnyder.blogspot.com. I'm still on Blogspot. That is where I chronicle all the movies that I see each year. You can see rankings for everything. You can see just, what's coming up, what you may have missed. It's a good resource. Bookmark it.
How many Pixar movies did you see last year, dude?
2. So,
Nice.
Pixar films. I know, Jeff, also you cover like award season pretty heavily, and that's coming up pretty quickly right now.
FIC on Friday.
Yeah. So if you guys really want to, if you're into awards stuff, I know this is a weird year for it because it's not too many to choose from. So, and obviously those nominations were very strange when they came out with the Golden Globes and the SAG. So
none of it matters because it's just different people voting for the Oscars. I don't understand how you can be like, well, it's 90 journalists. They're not in the Academy.
Mm-hmm.
Bad Boys for Life got nominated, right, for Best Picture?
Maybe.
I wouldn't be surprised. Wasn't it like the highest grossing movie in theater because it was one of the only ones, obviously?
I think it did end the year like that, unless I think it did.
Yeah, I don't think Tenet or anything else like that came out afterwards, or Wonder Woman.
I don't know how Sonic did. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. No, I think Sonic did great, but I think since Bad Boys came out in January, it was like it carried that like momentum for a while. When Sonic came out,
maybe we got Bad Boys 4 set inside of an old person's home.
There you go, man.
Bad Boys Afterlife. Jader, any final words before we get out of here?
No, just look out for my match March 19th against Janine the Machine.
Yep. Oh, you're going down, dude. We've already deposited the points in our faction standing.
There you go. You see?
Yeah.
On my own show getting trashed, dude. But you can look out for that. And obviously next week, Jader and Kyle. Big episode. And we'll check that out.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. We'll see you next time, another episode of the Jader and Kyle Show.
Fire it up! Fire it up!